The horizon is an infinite white desert. Thousands of penguins march in unison towards the deep blue ocean. Instinct commands them to follow the mass, to dive into the icy waters in search of survival. It is the safe path, the journey taken by everyone. But one penguin stops. He turns his back on the abundance of the sea and faces the barren mountains. The wind cuts through his feathers, the ice wounds his feet, but his gaze is fixed on nothing. He has chosen solitude. Why does he not follow the others? Why ignore food and the warmth of the huddle? The crowd screams that he is mad. The colony believes he is doomed. He knows the end is inevitable, but he chooses the path anyway. Werner Herzog watches from afar, with his camera and his profound existential doubt. The filmmaker asks the world what no one dares to say out loud. The question echoes through the eternal ice, seeking an answer that will never come. But why? Why does this penguin walk towards certain death in the continent's interior? The answer is not in the destination, but in the sovereign choice of who decides where to look. It is the beginning of freedom. If you also feel like you are walking against the tide in search of purpose, subscribe to Stoic. But why? Leave a comment. What is the mountain you are trying to climb today? The huddle is noisy and offers an illusory security to every member. There, no one needs to think, only follow the tracks of the penguin exactly in front of them. The sea is the common and unquestionable goal for everyone involved. For the crowd, survival is the only value that truly matters in life. They do not question the exhaustion or the direction, as the group validates the constant movement. To be accompanied is to avoid facing the silence of one's own being. However, the Adélie penguin realizes that the security of the herd is fragile. A leopard seal could be waiting under the waves to devour any of them. The crowd does not guarantee life. It only masks the individual fear of death. He looks around and sees only replicas of himself, marching on autopilot. There is no virtue in following the path just because everyone else is following it. The mass is moved by instinct, but the individual is moved by reason. The penguin feels the weight of conformity crushing his small internal desire to stop. He realizes that to find his own voice, he must first disconnect from the noise of others. The first Stoic lesson begins in necessary isolation. The decision to stop is an act of rebellion against ancient biological programming. When the penguin stands still, the world around him seems to gain a new sharpness. The sound of thousands of footsteps begins to slowly fade away. He faces the void of the mountains, where there are no fish, no nests, and no warmth. It is a scene of absolute deprivation. But that is where his choice resides. He is no longer reacting to the environment, he is acting upon it. Epictetus taught that some things depend on us and other things do not. The penguin does not control the weather, the food, or the final fate of his journey. He controls only the direction of his feet and his gaze. This clarity brings a strange and profound peace that the herd will never know. While the others tremble with fear of the predator, he accepts the possibility of the end. His will becomes his only and most powerful guide on ice. Turning inland, he embraces the unknown with a silent and frosty courage. He does not need approval, for his virtue resides in the act of choosing. But why? is now his personal prayer of absolute and total freedom. Walking toward the mountain hurts, and the penguin feels every muscle complain about the effort. The cold is not just a weather condition, it is an adversary that tests his determination. Each step in the soft snow requires immense energy. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort to strengthen the soul against bad luck. The penguin is living this practice in its purest and most brutal form. He discovers that physical suffering is bearable when there is an internal, clear purpose. Hunger begins to pinch, but he does not look back at the ocean with any regret. The pleasure of a full belly is fleeting, but the dignity of the choice is eternal. He prefers conscious hunger over instinctual, forced satiety. In the white vastness, he becomes a solitary black dot against the world's immensity. This reduced scale shows that his pains are insignificant before the grandeur of the universe. The penguin understands his place and accepts his small cosmic part. The ice becomes his master, teaching patience and the absolute resistance of the mind. He does not fight the storm. He walks through it without complaining about his fate. Discomfort is the fire that forges his unbreakable and steady character. Behind the camera lens, the man observes the creature with a mixture of horror and admiration. Herzog sees in the penguin the mirror of the human condition and our own madness. He seeks biological logic to explain the purely existential. The filmmaker represents our human need to give names and reasons to everything. We want the penguin to be sick or disoriented to feel safer ourselves. If he is mad, our normality and our collective march remain perfectly safe. But the penguin ignores the camera and the man as they do not belong to his judgment. To him, Herzog's opinion is as irrelevant as the opinion of his peers. What matters is the internal court evaluating his journey. But why? Asks the narrator, hoping that the silence of Antarctica will bring a rational answer. But philosophy does not seek easy answers. It seeks the correct posture before the abyss. The penguin is the acting philosopher. The camera captures the essence of Stoicism, staying firm while the world around you collapses. The penguin does not explain his walk. He just walks with a conviction that terrifies. His existence is the final answer for meaning. The mountains are closer now, immense towers of stone and eternal ice. The sun reflects on the peaks, creating a golden mirage that attracts the tired traveler. The penguin knows he will never reach the top, but continues. Death will find him somewhere between the plain and the snowy slope. However, he does not walk to die. He walks to live his last moments fully. He will die as an individual, not as a gear piece. Marcus Aurelius wrote that we should live each day as if it were the last of the journey. The penguin applies this maxim to every frozen breath. His life is the current step, the present, and the rock ahead. There is no tragedy in his solitude, only an austere beauty that few can endure. He found what the Stoics call ataraxia, imperturbable peace of mind. The outside world no longer has power over his inner state of spirit. Far from the sea, far from the herd, and close to himself, he finally rests. His eyes close before the mountain he chose as his final stage. He left, but he left behind the question that challenges us. The Adélie penguin teaches us that the path of the herd is not the only option. Often, True freedom requires turning our backs on comfort and facing the cold of our own truth. Stoicism is not about avoiding pain, but about choosing which pain is worth carrying in the name of virtue and reason. When the world questions your choices with an ironic "but why?", do not feel the need to explain yourself. Just keep walking toward your mountain. Peace resides in your will. Be the penguin who dares to stop. Believe in your path. Stay stoic.